I feel like this is just objectively bad. I can't see a single way you could possibly spin this one. So my bad point is just the whole Valve not checking meticulously
Right,
enough.
here's what we need to do. You need to give a very, very simple primer for people. What is the actual issue here, Mo? Because a lot of people know it. There's some issue with rules, but I don't think a lot of people even understand what the issue is. So what is the premise here for this?
Yeah, I'll explain the whole thing, but it's just that so Valve didn't check Perfect World's rulebook close enough when they structured the RMRs, actually the European RMRs, which led to fourth place decider games being played. Actually, just a single one between FaZe and Cloud9 through European RMR A, which was supposed to determine which team is going to the opening stage or the elimination stage. For people that don't remember, the elimination stage is just the second stage of the major.
Yes.
But they realized, Valve did, that by European RMR B, that that game shouldn't be played out because as per Valve's rulebook, apparently seeding is not supposed to come as a result of whether you make it through the RMR as a 3-0, 3-1, or 3-2 team. It is simply supposed to just be all teams from Europe that qualify are then, regardless of 3-0, 3-1, 3-2, are then decided upon by Valve's ranking going into it, the Valve regional rankings. And so then they are placed into the elimination stage or the opening stage. So for example, and where this is really coming to bite Big Clan, is that Big qualified 3-0 through European RMR B. Despite that, they are not actually gifted that elimination stage spot. They have to play the opening stage out, and that should have just been apparent from the get-go. Like, this should have just been completely apparent from the get-go. I don't necessarily agree with the ruling in general, but I just think that the bad part here is this. It's just dumb that Cloud9 and FaZe even played a fourth place decider when it actually never mattered. Like they actually played a match that never mattered. Retroactively, it never mattered because they decided to invoke the rule which Perfect World actually overlooked when they made their own rule book. And yeah, I mean, the main point about this, I could get into all these different aspects of this whole thing about like all the parts wrong with it. The main part is like for Valve to have a disconnect from Perfect World's rulebook just shows and Haka had the highest rated Reddit comment, or I mean, like, his tweet got onto the front page of Reddit because of this. He just said, like, at this point, Valve needs to have somebody hired to dedicate their time and basically make their job around esports, because for this to happen is just a huge oversight, and it obviously just leads to a meaningless game being played, expectations not being met by the teams when they're actually playing this tournament. And I just want to hear your guys' thoughts first, because I even have more points on this. But let's just hear. Yeah, what do you think?
Go on, Ross.
I think it's just kind of sad. I think that we're at so far down the line of Counter Strike and kind of the last or more, that we're kind of dealing with this kind of stuff. I think it's just it's just disappointing. Even I was chatting to some players after they played that fourth place deciders, and it was a long day to begin with. It just feels it leaves a bad taste. But yeah, there's the last RMR. I don't think, as you say, I think it's objectively just bad. I think it's sporting integrity above most things. And to think that we're still at this stage in esports, sometimes it comes as no surprise. And like I love Valve in a lot of ways and what they've done for all of us. But I think I think that there is a lot to be said for taking a laissez-faire approach to these things and kind of hands off and not being visible. But there are times where you would just wish that they would be just grab things and be proactive and manage it, because it's their event. And it feels at times like they take TI more seriously than they do kind of the Valve majors. But yeah, I think it was just a calamity of errors, and I don't know where there are to point fingers other than a Valve and kind of not dotting their I's and crossing their T's.
I've got a few angles on this one. So first things first, I will say that actually even my tweet on this topic doesn't actually make sense. This is actually a way more complicated one than I think I've ever seen, because here's the issue. I did a tweet where I said one of my principles of esports, which I actually think you should apply to every sort of competitive tournament. When you do a tournament, you'll never change a rule, because that means now two people got judged differently in a potential ruling situation. You have to keep like consistency of whatever the rule is. But to be fair, that's to be applied when you had a rule book and you just say, actually, this rule, I'm going to change it now to be better or different, and it's more like don't change the current rules. The problem with this scenario, the actual real devil in the details, if people don't get it, is as Maui described, as far as we can tell, the real rule book did say to do what now has they changed it to, and essentially it was just wrong the whole time before and they just didn't check it. Now look, the latter point is incredibly easy to say and harder to do, but obvious, isn't it? Which is check the fucking rule book before you do it. That part should go without saying, and I agree, that's actually basically like a level of professionalism I'm quite underwhelmed that a major tournament operator, whoever it might be, would fail at, because actually that's one of those due diligence things where, put it this way, the people in this call can confirm, I have probably done, by the way, like 10,000 fucking recordings in OBS, but I still do a test recording that I myself manually check every single time, 10,000 in, even though, by the way, I haven't lost one. I think I lost one episode, 10 into doing it out of the 10,000. Like the other 99, whatever, out of 9,000 something, actually this test record didn't even fix anything. It just was a contingency plan where if I ever had have heard on the test record, oh shit, wait, one of their mics is wrong or something, I would have caught it and I would have fixed it. So first of all, just to be a professional, it's like a Counter-Strike player. You run through your protocols, you do things like you check the rule book, you check that this is the format. By the way, this is all before anyone's ever even pressed one keystroke in the game. You double check that. You get, as he says, you get all the T's crossed, all the fucking I's dotted, etc. You do all that. But then, and the reason why, by the way, there's actually a true irony to the fact that unfortunately it's Big that got fucked, because in the history of Counter-Strike, if you know anything about European Counter-Strike, actually Germans are notorious for themselves reading the rule book and finding any tiny little discrepancy that they can use in a qualifier or a format time. They're the fuckers that if it says then exactly 14 minutes after the game is supposed to start, they will forfeit the opponent. They'll be the people that don't even message you till 15 minutes. You know what I mean? They know every fucking angle, but they got screwed on this one. So what I will say is this: I do think that's a way trickier scenario though, because technically whatever was in the original rule book is what should be enforced. So if you did it wrong once, you can't actually really, this is why I'm a bit torn. I don't think you can then just go, well, now that I know I did it wrong, I'll keep doing it wrong for the rest of the tournament to keep it consistent, because that's wrong from what it originally was. But which all brings me all the way to the last point, which is essentially the worst part about this fucking issue is, why does it exist? I'm getting really fucking sick and tired of the idiots that make tournament formats using fucking Swiss systems when it doesn't make sense. Think about, do you remember one of the first Swiss systems was that IEM New York, where they ran one with 8 teams in a group, just 8 teams in a Swiss, and then they realised, oh wait, shit, we've done it so they just play again, even though at the time there was that rule that you couldn't play twice. So if remember Optic and Fnatic or something played twice, or something stupid, and then it was it didn't even make sense how it works as a group, because essentially you should have had 16 teams and then had 8 get out, but they were doing 8 and then 4 make the playoffs or something. So also, how many, I've pointed this out to Maui, I'm sick and tired of how many times I've seen the fucking America's RMR do this, where they go, let's use a Swiss, and you're like, oh cool, Swiss is awesome, when you want to get a top 8 teams for playoffs. No, we're just trying to get 5, so we're going to make it so that you can win the 2, and then you still lose the tournament. What are we doing here? One of the best things about the Swiss, if it's for an 8-team playoff, is it's actually very obvious where you are at all times in the format, isn't it? Everyone knows how many lives they've got and how many lives they can lose and how many wins get you into that spot. Instead, we're doing shit now where it's you get to the point that normally in a Swiss system means you're in the playoffs, but it's but wait, we're not taking all 8 teams, so now you have to play a tiebreaker, Billy Bagoot. I think it's just terrible. I think you'd be better off, for real, either changing the number of teams so you can make it use the Swiss system, or just change the format. This format just seems inappropriate. Why? By the way, any format, it's why I campaigned for so many years to get rid of round robin. Any format with tiebreakers fucking sucks. Fucking sucks. What's brilliant about normal formats, where it's just X teams get out, like GSL or a normal Swiss where you have the top 8, is, like I said, there's never any other factor than your wins or losses that get you through the game. So I'm not a fan of it in general. And also, I do agree with, if you're someone like Big, to tie it into the earlier point that Ross was making about how, for some teams, this is life and death, these qualifiers. everything for the whole year. Imagine thinking you have made it, and then you're told, oh no, actually, sort of go back a level. Like, oh, this is fucking snakes and ladders. Actually, that ladder didn't go up there. You don't get to go there. Sorry, you just go back a level. You think you just qualified and had all those hours of being ecstatic and telling all your mum and dad, like, oh, we're in this and they have to call back up. No, sorry, we aren't actually Valve, right? Like, and I agree also with Hawker. Come on, mate. They needed this 10 years ago, but I don't even want it to be anything crazy. I genuinely, I'm not even joking. I don't even need it to really be that there's a guy in the community that can like change things at Valve. I'm not even joking. I just want them to give us the reason. That's what I want. I've always said this. People know I'm a massive critic of Riot Games. But I'll tell you what, Riot's actually not that terrible at sometimes giving you some of their reasoning, or at least come up with the bullshit. Yeah. Like, at least they address like the topic of what they're changing, whether they use PR talk. So I'd at least like to know from Valve. Like, by the way, even on something as simple as this, if Valve just said like, yeah, actually, our bad. Actually, we didn't design that well. We didn't think it through. That'd go somewhere. I'd have some goodwill from that, So I agree, though, there has to be some community liaison. Because at the moment, here's the analogy. Valve just feels like some bizarre Old Testament God where we're just like fucking in the wilderness, like, I beseech you, Lord, what do I have to do? Please, just speak to me. Send me a sign, a dove, anything. And he's like, no, I will remain hostile from you and stoic, mankind. So we just need a sign that you actually care, God, aka Valve, aka Gabe Newell.
I'm sure from Valve's perspective, in a way, it's like if they take this the like open market stance of there's going to be lots of tournament organizers out there, and that they're going to be, we're going to give the tournaments to the most capable people. We set out, these are our rules. This is the supplemental rule book. You're supposed to follow this, and they give you it, and they just want to wash their hands of it. And it's like, well, look, you've ran a really good series of events for over a number of years. Like, here, we're going to award you with the major and go and take it. So I don't know what it means in terms of relationship for them, because it just came in such a bad way, and that the perception was that it's favoring the better teams so that they get a better event. It's nonsense, really. But from Big's perspective, because the cap deal that you end up in the major has a big impact.
Oh, for sure.
That you'll generate.
Yeah.
So I'm sure. In offices, in Big's offices, that they would have been delighted.
It could be a swing of millions,
yeah, for
sure.
So it's a big deal, and then to have that kind of to hear that's not the case, it's going to be pretty disappointing.
See more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or be a pleb and don't.